Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we've got another big lump of tools on for repair. Bunch of broken stuff needs to be fixed up. What have we got? Bosch Makita D-wall drills on, Makita grinders, Evolution saw, refina mixing drill, and a Milwaukee 12-volt grease gun. These have all been sent on for repair, so stay tuned and let's see what we can fix and what we can't. Now, recognise this one. Milwaukee grease gun and for repair, this time. This was on a few months ago. I didn't fix it because I didn't think it was worth it. Customers come back, he's actually bought another one of these as well, but he also wants this one fixed. So, I'm going to fix this one up. Problem with it, well, obviously it's not working. Doing nout. Not even recognising the battery. So the controller inside is faulty. Strip it down, change the controller to get this running again. So she's the M12 GG. It's only a 2021 machine. And as you can see, it hasn't really done an awful lot of work. Normally these things get covered in grease. It's only done a few pumps, to be honest, because normally this gets completely clattered. It's actually not that bad. Right, more than likely this is water damage that done this. I think this is on a boat, so the salt water may have corroded the board or something. So I'll get her cracked open, I'll see if we can get her fixed up. Milwaukee like their screws anyway. 3 different types of screws on the front of one machine. T20s here, T15s and T10s. Just to make things that little bit more awkward. So it's this part that's failed. No obvious sign of failure, but you're not getting any power, so more than likely it's this. You just test the switch. Switch is still fine. Doesn't matter anyway, because the actual controller comes as a service kit. So switch assembly, you're changing everything: battery retainer, switch and the controller. And the trigger lever as well. But they don't supply the trigger spring. Oh, tell a lie. Look, they do. That's handy because that actually does get damaged from time to time. And that is our controller. Straighten it out, get it ready to put on. It's one of the reasons why I wouldn't be a fan of some of the Milwaukee stuff. Mind you, the M12 is a wee bit better quality. But that board, there's not much in the way of protection. If this thing gets wet at all, she's going to short out. Wee bit of a varnish on it, but that's it. Not great for the price of the machine. And a little micro switch on it as well. I'd have my doubts about that. It's a grease gun at the end of the day. When are you going to be using it? Inside. You're going to be out in the field most of the time using this thing. And it's going to get wet. Now it's just a matter of getting all the wires back into place. Get everything tucked in as neatly as you can. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. This isn't vibrating like an SDS drill or an impactor on I got there. It's just a grease gun. Shouldn't be vibrating that much, so wires shouldn't be chafing together. But all this little wire loom here has to go up underneath the micro switch. This little white one's off to the side. And also the live and negative for the battery terminal right beside the live going onto this switch. They're very close. That was actually touching the top of the negative terminal. If that wears through, it'll short out the machine, so I've actually just bent up this wee arm a little bit to clear that negative. They're very close. Don't really like that there, to be honest. Apart from that, we should be ready to go. Spring sits in here. The pin sits in this hole. That's all there is to her. Everything else should just drop on nicely. Screw her back together. Battery in. Does she work? She does. She's only M12, she's not going to put out a massive amount of grease. I still would have thought it would have done more than that. Anyway, that's her. Up and running again. One Milwaukee M12 GG grease gun up and running again with a new controller. At an €80 repair. It is quite expensive, but it is the board you're changing. To be a different story, if it was the switch you needed, you had to spend 80 just for a wee tiny micro switch. But generally the boards are going to be a wee bit more expensive. So the repair at €80, you can actually buy this for about 160 in some places, so you're at halfway mark of a new machine. But then again, this thing hasn't done an awful lot anyway. You've got two machines now. He's way off the new one, and now this one's fixed. That's her. Now, next up, two Makita cordless drills. These are the DHP486 heavy duty cordless drills. Both from the same customer, both not working. Now, I'd like to be able to tell you that these here are one of the best drills on the market, because I'm all into Makita stuff myself, and I do recommend Makita, but these are troublesome. They're a good machine when they're working, especially when they're brand new. They're a nice powerful machine, but they do have gearbox issues. And these ones have seen gearbox issues already. Both have been done for repair under warranty in the past, and both have been done for repair since outside of warranty. Now again, they've both stopped working again. Now the main thing with them, the main problem with them is a gearbox issue. This one has a this one has a gearbox issue. This one has a motor problem. The gearbox issues, the first problem with them from new is the selectors for going to first and second speed. They don't always go on to the actual speed whenever you select it on. There's sort of a lag, so you can hear the gears grinding before they fully go on. That's because Makita cheaped out on the gear selector ring, plastic ring that holds the actual gear that slides back and forth. It's held in place by 4 steel pins. Makita only put on 2. That's my main gripe with these here. Secondly, is the actual selector. Hammer mode, drill, and then straight onto clutch. It's a very bad setup. Once there's any play or wear in this at all, she does not come out of clutch, and she just stays in clutch mode or else goes on to hammer mode, which is happening on this one. Working fine, but she's slipping. She's working, and the clutch mode. But when you put her onto drill, she's going down the number 1 on the clutch. That's just a stupid design there, to be quite honest. If you're going to do it, you would have it the other way around. So clutch is a maximum right beside drill mode. This means if it slips at all, the engagement doesn't work, you go straight into number 1 clutch mode on drill mode. That's clutch. That should be drill. Still in clutch. And she's not even getting on to the actual hammer mode, but she is in hammer mode. So that is a major problem. She's either slipping in drill mode, or you're putting it into drill mode and it's actually going into hammer mode. Plus, when these things are new, there's just not a good enough detent and not a good enough gap between them 3 modes. So whenever you put in the drill and you're using the thing and your hand slips, you can either knock it into hammer mode or you can knock it into clutch mode. It's just a bad setup from day one. What are we going to do with these ones? This one is a gearbox problem. This has a motor problem. Now you can buy the switch for these separately from the motor, but I've already replaced that switch and it's still doing the same thing. It's not a switch, it's either going to be a stator or a controller problem. They come as one piece anyway. It doesn't really matter if it is either one. It's not going to be worth fixing if the part costs €100 alone. So the only option we have for these two, dismantle the 2 of them and make 1 drill out of 2. Take the gearbox from this, put it onto this. Hopefully the gearbox in this one is still good, because the motor in this one is still good as well. Plus, on another note for Makita drills, I do like Makita tools and I do recommend them, but the downside of the Makita drills, every drill on the range is the gearbox for me. Most other ones don't have any faults with them, but if anything goes wrong in the gearbox, if you strip out the gear, they do not sell you individual parts for the gearbox. Makita is very good at selling parts individually, like switches and stuff like that, battery retainers. Most of other parts are available, but on cordless drills, they do not give you individual breakdowns on the gearbox. The last drill they done that for was the DHP486, the big heavy duty 3-speed. Since then, it's all gearbox units, which I really don't like. So the drills are generally good, but if anything goes wrong inside the gearbox, you're replacing the whole gearbox unit, which can be very expensive. So I don't recommend them in that regards, but for everything else, I do actually like Makita stuff. But gearbox units, I've always disliked. Anyway, see if we can get one of these working. That out, get rid of that. We're in the big coat here today because it's absolutely freezing here in the workshop. First bit of frost we've actually got. Now the heating off, so you don't have to listen to the fan in the background. That's the bad gearbox, so we'll get rid of that. So this should leave me with a good motor and a good gearbox. And the advantage of having a whole gearbox unit, very easy to fit, just drops straight on. Well, that should leave us with something that works. Hammer mode, drill mode, and then clutch. That clutch, just don't like the way that's set up at all. Just going from drill full power to clutch at its weakest setting. Even just practicality, if this wasn't an issue, using this thing very easily, you could be drilling a piece of steel, you could easily just tweak that over onto clutch and have it slipping constantly. It's just not a very good idea. Separate ring for separate mode selections, or else just have them totally separated out with a bigger gap and a bigger detent for locking them on. So that's just not that strong, nor does it even feel that good. I do recommend Makita tools, and I do like Makita drills, but I can't say this one's very good. That's that one fixed now. One up and running out of two. This one is only going to be good for spare parts. But I will just show you the main issue I have with these drills. These are designed a wee bit like the older DHP486 ones. They're only a 2-speed drill instead of a 3. The gearbox is the same sort of setup. And they did put effort into this gearbox. Even these wee gears, they all have wee miniature needle bearings along with them. So it's a very smooth setup. So that's just kind of annoys me that little bit more. You go to this kind of effort to make a good gearbox, but they cheap out on this. Why go to all that effort and then cheap out on this one wee part? This is the selector for your gears. So as you change your mode, this slides up and down. Bottom of it has wee lock pins. They lock into this metal gear down in here. So there's no stripping this thing out. So if you're using this a lot in high speed and you're giving a lot of abuse, some machines you can't actually strip out that gear because this will be plastic down in here. This is all metal. Metal gear, metal ring for catching it. So when it's down low, these catch and this gear is fixed. Whenever you pull it into first gear, this slides up and this gear is free to rotate around this plastic holder. Problem with it is because this is the same setup as the DHP481, like I was saying, which is held in by 4 pins. This one only held in by 2. One here, one here. Just little steel pins that push in. So literally it goes onto that track there, holds it in place. In most cases this setup is fine, but in this particular drill it was designed differently. Whenever you're selecting this gear and you've got to slide it down into second gear, this gear can actually tweak over to one side. To get it to engage properly, you have to run it a little bit slowly for this gear to actually lock in properly, to go straight, to lock in. That's a problem this drill should not have. Why? Because this was designed to take 4 of these pins, not 2. So that is just a cheap out on Makita's part, trying to save a quarter of a penny on 2 little steel pins. This is meant to have 4 pins to keep this set centered square in the holder, so this goes up and down nice and square. Makita have just put on 2 just to save on them 2 little parts. If you have this drill yourself, you can actually fix this up, fix it right, dismantle like this, get 2 more pins, put one on either side. That'll get that running nice and smooth again. No more slipping gears as you change between the 2 speeds. If you have any older drills, you can strip them apart to rob the wee pins out of it, or if you want, you can look up the breakdown for the DHP481. They're the same pins being used here. So if you have one of these machines and you're having this issue, look up the parts breakdown for that machine and get them pins. Or cannibalize an older drill if you have one scrapped off. But that there's one of my main gripes with this drill. It's not Makita standard quality, to be honest. This is one of the things people don't like when they're buying these drills. You pick up on this problem straight away. Easily fixed though, but sadly Makita could have easily fixed it themselves by just putting in them 2 extra pins. Very, very irritating. It's not a hard thing to repair, but it's also not a hard thing to do right when you're manufacturing it. Just want to put this back together again for the customer, because you still have more spares to this machine if he needs to fix the other one, just in case a switch fails or something like that. Have all the parts together. That's them. One Makita drill not fixed, one Makita drill up and running with one made out of 2. Right, Makita grinder. GA9020 240 volt version. She smells anyway. And she stopped. And she stripped my breaker. Right, internal problem. Stripped the power in the workshop here. Breaker for these switches. Nothing on there. Maybe the handle. There we go. Looks like it's been opened before. No, it's not. I was going to say there's no cable tie to here, but it's up here. Oh, that is jammed on there. It's actually the switch. This is what's cooked. melted through the whole plastic top of the switch. Right, new switch needed and new contacts. Rest of this actual lead is fine. One new switch, new spade connectors fitted. Should get this up and running again. No more tripping the breaker. Just be careful when you're pushing these leads onto the wee slot. You don't bend the wee contacts. Definitely don't want them touching. Does she run? Nice one. That's her. One burnt up switch replaced. On to the next. Next up, Bosch drill and batteries. Batteries are dead. So at least works. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. Battery contact problem. She She's twisted this way, she won't run. If you twist it this way, she will run. And that's probably why. These are all bent. Right. We change that retainer, see if that can fix the drill. Question is now, the batteries be fixed. Well, there's something wrong with that. It's too low. It'll not charge at 15 volts. And the same with that one. It's also too low. See if we can fix these up. Can just spike these, jump them off another battery, bring the voltage up. But it's first worthwhile checking to see if you're wasting your time or not. Voltage may be low because he's ran it too hard, or they've been laying up a long time. There's different reasons why they can become too low. Spiking it will bring it back up again. But if the voltage is too low because there's a bad cell, spiking is going to do nothing. So may as well find out first. Yeah, that one. So they're dead. In other words, that's not worth fixing. Like I said before in other videos, you can resell them, but by the time you pay someone like me to resell them, you would have been better off just buying a new battery. It's just not worth reselling the batteries, especially here. The actual labour cost and paying me to do that, it's just too high. It'd be more worth it if you're able to do it yourself. But if you're going to try resell one of these yourself, you would really need to make sure you know what you're doing, because messing with lithium cells is very dangerous, and you could very quickly burn the house down. But for me, here in the workshop, by the time I actually get the same type of cell for one of these, rebalance all the other cells, break all the tabs, take out the old cells, put in the new ones, reconnect everything up again, it's just too expensive. Plus the fact that it's an old battery, it's only 4 amps, you've still got 8 other old cells inside. These 2 failed, it's only a matter of time before another 2 fail. At that point you're going to be wishing you bought a new battery, because you'd have been saving money buying new instead of reselling them. That one's no good. Yeah, again, this just isn't going to be worth it. They're already bad, so that's a lost cause as well. If you got one cell at 0 volts, that's why the battery is under voltage. That means then you've got 8 overcharged cells and 2 dead ones. So instead of being sitting at 4.2 volts fully charged, they're going to be sitting up at above 5 volts, which is way too high. So that battery is then dangerous. It can very easily go over voltage. Never just spike the battery and charge it, because you're going to be risking. So if you ever get them like this here and you need to spike them, check the cells first. If there's a bad cell, forget about it. Now for this. Never like that. Make it look like a metal gearbox. metal cover just to make it look like a metal gearbox. Don't forget this wee connecting tab up in here. One more screw. She's a big heavy looking drill. There's not much on the inside. This is the older version, so it is. It's a good 4-pole Milwaukee motor, but I always found it a wee bit light for the actual size of the drill. Our problems in here. There's the problem there. One broken wire. It's just snapped off of here. That's all it is. It's not the actual contacts at all. Fix the wire, we fix the problem. This is only going onto this wee tab here, and there is a little hole in the plate for the wire to go through, but this is only a little sense wire. It's not taking any current. Doesn't matter that much if it goes under the little hole. It's fine just to solder it on to the old solder. Just pre-tin it and solder it directly back on again. That's all you need. Simple as that. It's handy when you get a nice simple fix. It would need to be a cheap fix, because it probably wouldn't be worth replacing them batteries on their own. You'd be better off just going out and buying a new kit. But at €10, couldn't go wrong with it. That's her. One Bosch drill, the broken wire resoldered, and 2 batteries, not worth fixing. Next up we have an evolution saw. This is the R185 CCS. It looks like somebody's been in this. I would say they've broken the brush cap. The tip is holding the brush cap and she's not looking good, and obviously the motor's not good. That might be the brush. Check that first. It's not broken. No, it is broken. Threads are gone on it. But that's the problem, the brush. Something's not right there. Yeah, might be. Doesn't look that great. Armature is all blackened. That's just from that brush being worn out. Question is this one? Yeah. So 2 worn out brushes. That is just the brushes. This one had been full, the other one worn away. Would have been probably the motor eating this brush. because they're both worn down. More than likely the brushes have just worn out. This one's not making contact anymore and it's just arcing across. That's what all the spluttering and sparking is. So we'll get a set of brushes first, see if she runs like them. So I have a set. They're not cheap. €20 for a set of brushes. That's them. Chance these, see what it does. I'd like to see if we can get another cap. That should be close enough. It's not the exact same. It's the same size and the same threads. Now, it's still sparking. Nice one. She's not great, but she'll do. Let's see, the gearbox starting to wear as well. Let's see, the gears are starting to wear on. €20 for a set of brushes gets it up and running again. You're better off just getting it running and working so the man can continue using it, instead of spending more money and fixing up this end as well, which the customer mightn't even want. It's an older saw, it's obviously been used quite a bit. Get it running again for him, get it out the door. And just like that, after looking at two already, here's another one. This one, nothing. I mean nothing. Not even putting the light on. This could be a controller failure, or else a switch. She's also not that old, 2023. So that has to be on warranty, I'd imagine. Right, first thing, check the switch. Because she's not putting on that wee LED light, potentially could be the switch. We'll know straight away if we change the switch, the light then works. Quick and easy to change it at least. Just one connector strip and two spades. No. So it's the controller. That's our problem. Always try the easy one first. A little bit more to change in the controller. First of all, keep your LED. Secondly, keep your battery retainer. To replace this, on this particular model, you can't buy the stator separately. You have to buy it along with the whole controller. I can't even see where it's failed, but she's definitely doing nothing, so we'll replace this. Hold on, hold on. Look at that. Manufacturing fault. Somebody didn't tidy in the wires. Well, they've damaged that wire, but they haven't broken it, mind you. But if they were rough for this one, it could have been rough for something else. Regardless, I think this is warranty, so we'll replace. On second thoughts, we're not going to fix this one. Just rang the man to make sure that he can give me a receipt for the warranty, but it's actually not under warranty at all. It was bought second hand, no receipt, no warranty. So I'm afraid this one's a no-go. Bought it cheap second hand, so obviously he doesn't want to spend 150 odd quid fixing it up. So this is a no-go. That's two of them not repaired in one day, and the other one was only fixed because the first was cannibalized. I would say that little bit of damage to the wire was just from that screw. I would actually say this wasn't a manufacturing fault now. This was bought second hand. It means the first boy that had it might have tried to fix it. When he failed, he just sold it on second hand. Done a wee dirty. Sadly, hope the boy bought it didn't pay much for it, because it's only a paperweight now. Second hand tools, I wouldn't say I don't recommend it, but it's definitely more risky. Generally, somebody's getting rid of tools for a reason. Fair enough, if they upgrade, they're getting rid of their old stuff. A lot of the time, their old stuff's just giving them trouble, so they just want to get rid of it before it fails. That one, complete dud. I think that's good for now. If the boy buys the same one, a brand new one, he's got the spare parts, but otherwise, no good. Now for something a wee bit different, one we don't look at anymore, but for some reason somebody decided to take this one in. A healthy drill. This one is the SFC22A. It's one of the older versions, and this one's doing squat. Light coming on, but nothing's happening. But she runs if you hit it. So that's a set of brushes. So we'll do this one because it's a simple one. But normally, don't take in healthy tools anymore. Two simple reasons. Carriage getting the parts sent out is way too expensive now. The actual repair of them, especially healthy hammers, have a red service light. If that comes on, they have to go to healthy anyway, so I'm wasting my time fixing them. Thirdly, is of no real benefit to us, this being a hardware shop, and actually fixing healthy tools. We can't supply them anyway. Healthy only sell direct to the customer. There's no in between man. So really, a hardware shop fixing their tools doesn't really make sense. That hardware shop can't supply the healthy tools anyway. Fixing them, you're just giving yourself trouble. If there's any electronic problem, if there's anything else that healthy is built in as a safety, it has to go to healthy anyway. You could be just wasting your time, wasting the customer's time. This one's only going to be a wee simple fix, so we'll do this one. But as for all the other times, don't send healthy tools into here, as we just don't look at them anymore. I've been bitten too many times in the past, especially with healthy hammers, getting them serviced. Like this, if you're to service the thing now, clean it all out, get it ready to go, you're grand. But if it's a healthy hammer, you service it. Healthy hammers have a built-in service light, a wee red light that comes on. That isn't just a service light to say the brushes are empty, like in most brands. That red light actually shuts down the whole machine. So healthy hammers have a built-in timer. Whatever amount of 100 hours is on it. Once that time is up, the red light comes on. Then you have like 10 or 20 hours of use. Then the machine shuts down completely. Can't run again until you send it to healthy to be reset then it'll run again. It's not even needs to be serviced or anything, it's just a stop device. Stops the tool totally. Bit of a con for the customer because it has to be healthy to be done while handling, especially outside of warranty. But as well, for anyone else servicing them, they can service the machine and an hour later that red light will come on and it still has to go back to healthy. You can't buy the reset tool your own, healthy do not supply it. So bit of a con, and we don't do it anymore. Because before in the past we've serviced them, spent 100 or 200 euro fixing up a hammer just for the light to come on a short time later. Makes ourselves look very bad, so from now on we just don't do it. This one, it's looking a bit rough. Questionable if this will work. Brushes are totally worn out. Nothing left at all. Not much in it when you strip it down. Motor, switch in it, gearbox. That's it. There's just a wee spade connectors for holding this on, but the question is, have I got one? Right, that's a no. I do still have healthy parts here, quite a bit of them actually, especially brushes, but I don't have this. So, no brushes for it. To order this on its own, the part might only cost 10 or 15 euro, but to get it here, it costs 30 euro in carriage. 45 euro just for a part, not really going to be worth it. So we'll do the wee Makita trick and use Makita brushes instead. At 10 euro, they're a lot cheaper. Lift up your spring, both sides. Take your brushes out. These ones actually come out at the bottom, unlike the Makitas will come out at the top. But that shouldn't matter. Cut off the brush, the lead for the brush. It's one little spot weld holding it on. Just pulls off. See if your brushes fit. So they're the right thickness. They're just a bit too wide. Quick wee file. Do it on both sides to keep it even. See if it fits. A little more. You want them to go in, but you don't want them to be loose. A little more. And make sure they go all the way up and down. Sometimes when you file them, you're putting too much pressure on one end so that it becomes tapered. Goes on so far but then jams at the back. Make sure it goes the whole way through. That's one. Solder them on down here instead. Don't put too much heat onto these brush holders. Enough to get a blob on. That'll do. This brass holder is still sitting on a plastic plate. Do not want to be melting the plastic. Just need enough to solder the wee lead onto. Pre-solder the end. Stick it on. Don't put too much solder on that lead because it'll make it very rigid. on. And that's 2. That should be all the clearance we need now. Don't forget your springs. Try drop it on again. It's a bit tricky because you have to get the brush holder on and this wee bearing plate. That should be it. That's if the motor's still good. You're not going to know that till you run it. The question is, does it work? Yeah. Good enough job anyway. That armature's not the best. She probably is overheating a wee bit, but she's still running. That spark you're seeing is actually just from the electronic brake. The way she instantly stops. All drills do that, especially when you put on a new set of brushes or it's brand new. That's her. One Hulty drill. SFC 22A. Fixed up again and running. With a set of Makita brushes. CB440s. That wee trick works on the Hulty drills, the Makitas, the Bosch and the Panasonics, to name a few. This particular one, I think it's an Iban stock. Could be a refina, I'm not sure. A lot of stuff on it. Hard to tell. Looks like an Iban stock. Does she work? Yes. Right, works. That's the main thing. Now, mixing drills, whether it's a refina, an Iban stock, or an Alpha, they're basically all the same machines. 2-speed mixing drill, switch in the bottom, big heavy gearbox. They're all pretty much the same. Same process for repair for all 3 of them. This one, the motor's working. She's very, very grubby. Switch is all packed out with cement. The problem, same as most, is bearings. The shaft is now loose. So that bearing down here has failed and needs to be replaced. Doesn't sound bad at the minute. Once it paddles on it, it's flapping around all over the place. Now this is a common one for these machines. The bearings do eventually go. They're working in a very dirty environment. As you can see, these things just get covered in plaster. I know it looks bad. It's a working machine. The man's making money. He's not been paid to clean the machine. Things here to make him money and work. That's it. They're quite heavy duty machines. They're very, very robust. All this build up, there's no harm to the machine at all. These can handle it. Worst thing about it, the main downside of having it like this here, it's going to be this bearing. All that grit and cement and plaster builds up on the bearing. So that starts getting damp and wet, which starts to get onto the bearing itself, causing it to rust and eventually fail. You can see the gap in that seal now. So to strip this down, change these bearings, to To strip it, you're going to have to clean it a wee bit, get some of this plaster off. It gets everywhere. It's on the man's hands when he's mixing the stuff and working with it. It gets onto the machine. You can either spend all day cleaning the machine, or you can get on the job at hand and actually do plastering, which is what the boys do. That's why they get to this sort of state. You can clean it down as much as you can, but don't get bogged down on it. Most of it will scrape off. Scrape it off with a flat brush, or else get a wire brush. Take as much as you can off. You're only just reducing the width up here, but you do have to clean out the bore for this bearing down here. That's the main important one. Plus all this bits, you can knock that off, just simply because whenever you're rebuilding it, it's less likely for this to break off again and get onto the gearbox when you're reassembling. So basically, before you start stripping, get cleaning. Clean off as much as you can. The main bulk of it, thing doesn't have to be spotless. You do want to give this switch a good clean out. It's actually very bad there. You can see how thick it is. Don't be too rough with the hammer. That gear casing is just aluminium. You could bust it. Yeah, just cleaning up nicely. That's the main bulk of it off there now. You have to get her cleaned down and ready to go. You also need to get onto all the screws up in the head. Everything's going to be blocked with plaster. You have to dig them all out and clean out the heads, including down here, before you can actually open anything. That was a lot. Normally they're not that bad, but quite a bit of stuff on that. Now, this is actually a refina mixer, not an Ivan stock at all. But it's the same machine. Ivan stock, refina, they're one and the same. So it's a refina one we're doing here. It's the colour green that makes me think it's Ivan stock, but same thing. Now, it doesn't look a lot cleaner, but that's just the cosmetic bit of it. This doesn't really matter. You still have to open it up. It's going to be just as dirty on the inside. That's your brush holder, completely caked. And it's like this here, it's only basically dust, but if that ever gets wet, that just turns to cement, jams everything solid, especially the brushes. May look bad there now, but the brushes can still move. It's only just dry dust. If she lays out in the rain someday, all that dust is going to harden, and that's when you get trouble. So that out to clean, and also get on here. Motor not too bad. Actual fan area here as well isn't too bad. the whole volume inside of here and around here, around the fan, can actually be completely caked in and filled up. This one's actually not too bad. Motor bearings are fine. That one's good. And that one seems good. Before we crack it open, just get rid of that dust. And that's a different grease. This looks like it's been repaired before. So them bearings are actually alright. It's only this one bearing that's failed. Everything else has been protected by the grease. I think I'm going to try something different with this here. This bearing's fine, these bearings are fine, it's only this one that's gone bad. So take this one out. You have to clean out the aluminium housing, make sure that bore has no cement on it, so the bearing can pull out without actually cracking the aluminium. I think this time, because there's only one bearing, I'm going to try to just change this one bearing on its own without stripping everything out of this machine. With that grease there, you'll find a C-clip. Get that C-clip out first. We're going to set this up on the bearing press, just supporting the outside of this aluminium housing with a bore big enough to allow this bearing to pass through. We're just going to press that shaft on its own, press out the whole shaft, and we'll see if we can get this bearing out, leaving the rest in place. You may want to catch this. There we go. This will be very handy if it works, because otherwise you have to clean out all the grease and strip out everything just to get to this bearing. Tappy tap tap. Just walk it out. Does that hurt? Lovely. One bearing. Now that was actually, that took longer than I thought it would. It's a wee bit dirty, but at least I didn't have to wash out the entire insides. Now that was only possible because that bearing is still intact. That race would be destroyed and the balls moving all over the place, that inner race would have just knocked out. If that happens, when it's that tight inside, you'll probably have to weld the outside race to get it to contract enough to be able to pull it out. You'll not get it knocked out like that unless the inside race is still intact. Because otherwise, with the shoulder, there's no way to get to this edge to beat it out. Now, a lot of gunk in here too. Have to get that out. Just make sure you hold it up so the dirt does not fall down into the gearbox. And there's a lot of stuff on there. So that was a bit strange. There's only this one bearing that's gone. Normally, when these things start to go and the bearing goes, you need to replace everything. But this particular one was actually done 2 years ago, 2022. So 2 years ago, I actually replaced all the bearings in this already. So they would have all been FAG and NSK bearings have been replaced with. All the rest of the bearings are still good because they're all inside the gearbox, inside the motor, not getting exposed to the same amount of grit and dirt. It's only this one that's failed because it's failed due to water damage. Cement sitting on it, moisture getting in, that seal disappearing, everything got up inside of here. That one's good. So this one went bad. But the rest of them, even this one here, perfectly good. Nothing wrong with that at all. Now the question is, can we get this back together without stripping all this out? So first thing we're going to do is press this bearing onto this shaft. Like so. Now, do remember, there's a shim between the gear and the bearing. Just make sure they're lined up. You don't want to crush the shim. The shim is actually sitting between the gear and the bearing, and they are touching. So when you're pressing this on, the gear is going to be pressing that bottom bearing, and it's not that overly tight anyway. As you can see, it slides up onto that bearing. So now all I need to do is press that gear, support the outside of this bearing, push it up on the outside race. Look at that. Not the standard method, but it works just fine. One new bearing fitted, nice NSK. Rest of the bearings left in place. That saves stripping the whole thing down, cleaning all the grease, washing it all down and replacing all the grease again, because there's quite a bit of grease in these machines. That's her. Now, let's finish cleaning this. Can't help but be impressed by these machines. The sheer amount of abuse that they're able to take and just keep on going. And lastly, one set of brushes. And that should be me. Nice one, look at that. One refina mixing drill with a new bottom bearing, replaced on its own. The rest of them are all fine. Plus a new set of brushes. That'll keep this machine running for a few more years, trouble free. What is she? 2019 machine. So it's one new set of bearings it got 2 years ago, one new top bearing this year, plus a set of brushes. Not doing too bad, must say. I do like these machines. They really are built quite well, built for work, for industry. They're really tough and rugged. They can withstand quite a bit of abuse, plus they do their job really well. That's her. Thanks for watching, folks. As always, hope you're enjoying the content. Give us a wee like and follow if you're liking it. Cheers.